Welcome to the Raise Your Energy podcast. My name is Linda Lange and I'm your host and energy expert. Do you like to make it right for everyone else but yourself? Do you put everyone else's needs before yours? And you already know that it does not really make you happy, but what can you do, right? Then I'm begging you, please stay with me here for the next 15 minutes or so. You need to know the true impact that people-pleasing has on your life. Stay tuned. I don't know about you, but I am a recovering people pleaser. And with that comes some days are better than others. My focus is now on putting myself first instead of putting others first. And as it is with anything else that you are trying to change, sometimes it's easier than other times. And that's okay. So, if you are a people pleaser, or if you are already like me on that recovery journey, this episode is specifically for you. Not only do I want you to understand the steps that I suggest you take to move away from that people pleasing, but more impactful will be what I'm going to share with you why most of us are people pleasers to a certain degree and what the consequences are. Those are the most shocking and it might trigger you, so it should. People-pleasing has huge impacts on your life that you're probably not even aware of. I invite you to not turn off this episode now, just because you might feel a little uncomfortable, but rather go through this uncomfortableness, this feeling, as a sign that you are in the right place and the right time listening to this now. I am here with you and you are going to be all right. More than all right, because these insights can put your life towards a completely new trajectory. So let's dive into it. So why do we actually please other people in our lives? Overall, we do it because we shy away from conflict. We do all this people-pleasing to keep the peace and keep everyone around us happy. Well, so we think, but we will get to that later on. In moments when we put other people's needs first and do everything to please them, we do that to avoid conflict. Either by trying to not create a conflict situation or not being part of a conflict conversation. We are in fear of what might happen. We just don't want to take that risk of somebody being upset with us, with other people, or just in general. So we run around putting our needs on the back burner and trying to make it as comfortable as possible and as easy as possible for everybody else but us. But here is our first consequence of that people-pleasing. When we're putting other people's needs first, even if it's for our partner, our husband, our wife, our children, what we are truly doing is abandoning ourselves. We are making sure that everyone else is okay, but fully ignoring if we are okay. I want to make clear that there is nothing wrong with avoiding conflict situations for reasons where you don't abandon yourself. I'm not asking you now to jump into every conflict that you can see from now on forwards. Really not. It's more about standing up for yourself and being more in alignment with who you are and what your needs are. Quite often, you speaking your mind and standing up for yourself might not even create a conflict. It's just the fear of that potential conflict that makes us do this. The thing is that there is misalignment to your true self by you avoiding a conflict and then people please. And this misalignment is not going away just because you don't end up in an actual conflict. It just has an impact on you in a different way, or the seemingly lovely bubble that you have been creating is going to burst at a later point, but with a much bigger bang than if you would have been facing it earlier. And let's be honest, it does not really feel that good to people please in the first place. Otherwise, you would not even have clicked on this episode. I know what it felt like when I put other people's needs first and ignored my own. The biggest feeling that I had to face was resentment. Resenting the people that I just bent myself backwards for, as if they forced me to go with what they wanted to do instead of just saying what I wanted to do. And after a while, it's not just resentment that you're facing. For some people, this can turn into anger and frustration. For others, it might move towards guilt and shame. And others might be struggling with disappointment or even self-hatred because they see what they are doing, but they just cannot stop themselves. And I ask you, is it really worth it? Is it worth it to keep the peace for years and years on the outside just to feel like shit on the inside? Obviously not. So as we are talking about this bubble that we are creating and that will burst anyway at some point, I have my own example that I want to share with you. Quite a few years ago, I was in a role where I covered for someone else's shortcomings in their role. I just took on some of their responsibilities, otherwise they would just not get done. And I wanted to make sure that I keep the peace and everything running and that everybody is happy. And this went on for over a year until my bubble burst. It was my annual performance review, and my boss gave me a worse rating than I expected. She told me that she realized what I was doing and that I made the situation worse by covering for someone else. If it would have become clear that the other person was not up for all of those responsibilities earlier, it would have been easier to choose something about it. So she gave me this pretty harsh feedback and a rating that I was clearly upset about, well, in that moment. After a while, I started to understand what happened and that it was my own fault because I seemingly wanted to keep the peace. Well, you can imagine that this did not happen to me ever again. It cured me from covering anyone else's shortcomings at work ever again. And looking back at that example and a couple of others, every time a boss or a loved one gave me some straight feedback, I actually learned from it so much. Did it suck to get that feedback? Yes, it did at the moment. But then I learned so much. Do you see what happened here? They did not people please me and therefore gave me some straight feedback that I needed to hear or told me when I did something wrong or hurt them. And for each and every instance, I am so grateful. So another consequence of people pleasing is that you don't give the other person the possibility to evolve, to grow and to change and maybe see a new perspective. I'm not saying that the other person will always do that when you do stand up for yourself, but there is of course a possibility that they do and you stop that from happening. With your people pleasing, you might even underestimate the other person because you think that they will never let you do your thing or will even understand where you're coming from. Well, you see that you don't even give them the chance, right? So let's talk about the last consequence that I want to cover for today. There are for sure more, but I want to get off of that soapbox rather soon and focus on what we can do about all of this. When you are ignoring your needs, your dreams, or your preferences, you are not true to yourself, and that does not help you or anyone else in your life. And let me tell you why. You come across as inauthentic. I know that because I got that feedback before myself. I was told before that I was inauthentic, that I did not show my true self, and that I should stop doing that if I ever want to be promoted to the next level. Especially people who are more sensitive or can read people quite well will see that you are wearing a mask, and that puts people off from really truly connecting with you. If you are not your true self, people don't really know you. And you don't even give them the opportunity to get to know you, the real you. And the sad thing is that quite often you don't even get to know your true self yourself. Some people are pleasing others so much and for so long that it has become their normal way of living. They have completely lost themselves. And how sad is that? And if you take that thought even further, what that means is that they deny people to even fully love them for who they truly are. And lastly, they are not able to fully love themselves ever, as they don't even know who they should be loving. Do you see that? Okay, so on that note, I will finish talking about all of the impacts that people pleasing has. I think we heard enough and have felt the full force of this, right? So let's move on to talk about what we can do to change that habit of people pleasing. In my opinion, the best action to take is simply to be true to yourself instead of trying to fit in. Listen to your inner voice. And if you have never done that actually before, then start now so your inner voice actually gets a chance to speak up for the first time. Spend more time alone and do something that just you want to do and nobody else. I talked a lot previously about how much I am a fan of traveling by myself. This is a time when I get closer to my true self. But you can do this as well at home by meditating or literally sitting in silence, asking yourself some powerful questions. So let me actually give you one that might be difficult to ask yourself, but if you're willing to do it, it will be crazily insightful. Ask yourself the question, who in my life is here because I always please them? And who in my life is here because they love me? Let me say this again. Who in my life is here because I always please them? And who in my life is here because they love me? If you can be honest with yourself and listen truly to your inner voice, you will have some huge light bulb moments. I promise you that. And if you are completely new to stopping the people pleasing, then start with setting some healthy boundaries for yourself to the other people in your life. Ask yourself, maybe for the first time in your life, what will you and what won't you tolerate going forward? And when you have your answers, how about communicating them? Face your fear and conflict and do it anyway. The first and the second time will be the biggest hurdle when you start communicating what you just won't tolerate anymore going forwards. But the third time, you begin to see that nothing bad is actually happening, and it will actually start to become easy for you. If you ask yourself now how you can give people in your life some feedback that you wanted to give them for a long, long time, so where to even start, I share with you a feedback model that I actually learned in my previous HR role. It's called the SBI Method. And S stands for situation, B stands for behavior, and I stands for impact. First of all, you describe the situation you are giving your feedback on to the other person, so they know exactly what you're actually talking about. So very objectively describe the facts of the situation. Then you move on to share the behavior of the other person that you observed from your perspective. You can even say the words like, in this situation, I observed you behaving in this way, dot, dot, dot. And then lastly, you share with them the impact that this behavior had on you, not on someone else, but the impact it had on you. You don't speak for other people, you just speak for yourself, okay? The point of this feedback model is that the other person cannot really deny of how you observed their behavior and how it made you feel. Do you see that? You make it very personal for yourself and you keep it as objective as you can. It also invites the other person to comment on their behavior and clarify that they did not intend to make you feel that way, which is hopefully the case. Well, unless they did, well, then that's a completely different conversation, right? So try it out. You could even write it down beforehand to practice it, what you want to say to the other person. And if you want to know more about the SBI method, then just Google it. You find tons of information on this. Well, we are coming to the end now. We covered a lot about the consequences of people pleasing, and there might have been a lot of hard truth in that. It was important to me for you to see the true and deep impact that this has on your life. I will leave you with this. If you ever want to become your true self and love yourself, stop trying to please everyone else, but start pleasing yourself. I will provide you as well with the link to my I Am Enough meditation that helps you to strengthen your self-worth and your self-love. That is just very much aligned with what we've covered today. Thank you so much for watching this episode. If you liked it and learned a lot from it, leave a comment. Let me know what was your biggest aha moment in this episode. And give me a thumbs up as well. I would really appreciate it. And with that, I love you and leave you. Talk soon and bye-bye.